Welcome back to the Oklahoman's election 2018 coverage, and there you see it. Kevin Stitt will be the 28th governor of Oklahoma, succeeding fellow Republican Mary Fallin. Stitt defeated Democrat Drew Edmondson, and it was supposed to be or expected perhaps to be a close vote, but the race was called by 9 p.m. Dave Morris here in the Oklahoman's video studio, joined by my colleagues Ben Felder and Chris Castile. And Chris, again, as we mentioned at the top of the night, you cover this race more closely than anybody else. Kevin Stitt ran away with it tonight. Your thoughts?
I'm very surprised that it's it's so lopsided, and it looks like that Drew Edmondson will win Oklahoma County and Tulsa County, the two biggest, and Cleveland County, which may be the third biggest, or it's in top 5. So he'll win some of the biggest counties. He'll win the urban counties. And rural Oklahoma will have decided this for Kevin Stitt, for the most part. I mean, when you count like the legislative races as well, what you see is that rural Oklahoma, the Republicans really maintain their grip on rural Oklahoma, strengthen their grip in rural Oklahoma, and I think Kevin Stitt benefited from it, and I'm really just surprised by the margin.
You were out there with the candidates throughout all of their stumping and campaigns, including in rural Oklahoma. What did you see as far as how the people connected with him?
Well, I always thought, and we've talked about it a million times, that I always thought Edmondson would have a really tough time in rural Oklahoma. The western part, in part because of the 2016 question on farmer, freedom to farm, or whatever that they were calling that state question on animals. And then in the eastern part, I think there was a lot of opposition to that lawsuit that Edmondson filed as an attorney general, even though it was ostensibly for their benefit to not pollute the waters. But the lawsuit that he filed against big poultry producers, because of the chicken waste that was being dumped on the ground there, I thought he might have some problems over there. He lost his home county, it looks like Muskogee County, where his dad served in Congress for decades. But he's lost it so bad that it just nullified his big wins in urban Oklahoma.
Ben.
I mean, we've talked about it all year. This is a change election year. I mean, voter frustration is very high. The current governor has some of the highest and lowest favorability ratings in the nation. And for that reason, we thought Drew Edmondson had a pretty good chance. He could run, as a Democrat to put check on Republican powers. But Kevin Stitt was running as that change as well, and even though he had an R by his name, he was very critical of the current administration and said that he wanted to shake up government. And this is really, at the end of the night, it was going to be an amazing story whoever won, but you have, a man in Kevin Stitt that a year and a half ago, almost all Oklahomans probably didn't know, his name at all.
Yeah, 6 months ago, until he beat Lamb in the primary.
He beat the Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb, who had been running for governor for a long time. For some people a year ago would have said that he's just the heir apparent to the job. In a runoff, he beat a popular former Oklahoma City mayor in Mick Cornett. And this is a man who has never sought political office before, and now he's going to become the state's top official, vowing to kind of bring a CEO playbook to the state capitol. I think what's interesting and what we'll want to watch is that it's very common for candidates, particularly Republican candidates, to say they want to run government like a business, they want to shake things up, they want to be an outsider. Well, he really isn't. He really is the outsider in terms of his political resume, because there's nothing on it. And he says that, hey, the only thing I've known how to do is build a business, and I'm going to take that same strategy to the state capitol. So it'll be very interesting to see how he works with the legislature, even though it will remain in Republican control, and what kind of strategy and vision he brings to the governor's office. And
to that point, Chris, what are some of the questions that we will be following up with, some of the things we're looking at, perhaps the team that he surrounds himself with?
Exactly. I mean, I think that's good. Just to get back to tonight, though, for a little bit, I mean, I think it's got to be a very disheartening night for the Democrats unless, and we'll know pretty soon, they pick up this congressional seat in the Oklahoma County area that also includes Seminole and Pott counties, because it'll be the first time Oklahoma City is represented by a Democrat in Congress since the mid-'70s. So that is still out there, and that would be a huge Democratic win. And they picked up a couple of seats. Democratic women, in fact, will replace a couple of Republican men in some Senate seats here. But unless they pick up that fifth district congressional seat with Kendra Horn over Steve Russell, it's going to be an incredibly disappointing night for Democrats, I think. But to get back to your question, I think what Ben will probably focus on next, what he'll need to look at in the next few months is who Stitt builds, the team that Stitt builds, because he is an outsider. He has sworn that he's not going to surround himself with these establishment people that have been in government for decades, whether, being paid to do it or on some board or commission. Stitt's going to bring in his own people, and I think Ben will be all over that. And it'll be interesting to see the team that he puts together.
Matt Pinnell will be the lieutenant governor, it looks like. Matt
Pinnell.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big night for Republicans, and that's, other than the governor's race, I mean, we expected a lot of these statewide seats to be run by Republicans. I want to go back to the primaries just real quick. It was probably a good scenario. It felt like a bad moment for Republicans because we saw lots of incumbents lost, but it was actually probably a pretty good good time for Republicans because, some of these candidates that would have maybe struggled in the general election, many of these that voted against a tax increase for a teacher pay raise, they were shown the door over the summer. More moderate Republicans,
right.
Were now going to be the party's nominee, who I think were going to compete better and did compete better in the general election. So it's a
they
tough
cleaned
night
house. They cleaned house in the primaries
Democrats.
and then rallied around their new people. That's exactly what we talked about that on your show.
But it may not be, and we'll have to see what it looks like, but it may not be the same Republican Party as old. What that looks like, I don't know. Democrats may scoff at that, but there are going to be a lot of new faces going in with a brand new governor. It'll be interesting.
You mentioned Ben's show, Political State. You can find that every Friday on newsok.com. Perhaps there will be a midweek edition of Political State this week. Stay tuned for that. We mentioned Congressional District number 5, 93% reporting Kendra Horn with a 50-49%. That's still a pretty close race right there. We'll be following that throughout the night. The state questions, the optometry question, state question 793. Also another close vote there, 49% no on that so far.
Millions spent on that question. Millions of dollars spent on both sides. The big box stores trying to get optometrists in there. Change the law. It's interesting that's going down so big. Only one state question winning. You said Marcy's Law, the victim rights.
Not even close. 78%.
The victim rights one. Yeah, I mean, that means a state question to have governor and lieutenant governor run on a combined ticket, run as a team, so to speak. That's going down. The one that would allow counties or school districts to use property tax money for operational expenses is going down.
That one's a close vote at this point, but yes.
The one that would create kind of a auxiliary rainy day, new kind of rainy day fund, savings account with
5% off the gross production
tax, which is a tax on oil and gas production. That's going down. So I talked to so many people, and maybe you guys did too, that were confused by these state questions. Yeah. No matter what we wrote, I'd go, well, we wrote a story on that. Do you not understand? They go, I still don't get it. And the trend is that when people don't understand a state question, they vote against it.
I heard that in the lines where I voted today as well. That's what a lot of people were saying. We're like, if I don't understand it and I know it's going to change the state constitution, I'm against it.
Yeah, even if it has these kind of red meat phrases in there that I think a lot of politicos might think voters are going to attach themselves to that. You're right. I mean, voters are still kind of weird about it. I think about 2 years ago when we saw, I can't remember the state question number, but the one dealing with putting the 10 Commandments on the state capitol. I mean, you would think that would sail through in Oklahoma,
right.
but it was worded in an odd way. I think Oklahomans were like, I'm not sure entirely about this, so I'm not going to give it a pass. And it seems like the same thing tonight, even though you have issues of, raising money for schools, for saving oil and gas taxes, some things that you may expect to have some of those buzzwords.
These things that like the state chamber was spending money to, some of these were part of kind of that Step Up Coalition's agenda. The reform, government reform. They wanted a stabilization fund. They wanted the governor and lieutenant governor running as a team. So once they got in, it'd be a more cohesive, top of the government. So the state chamber is a big loser tonight, too.
Well, two of the big winners tonight, Kevin Stitt, he'll be the next governor of the state of Oklahoma. The other big winner, the Oklahoma County or the Oklahoma State Election Board website.
Yeah.
They did a very nice job with the redesign and implementation tonight. And rolling out a website, never an easy thing. On a big like tonight, that's a big success. Hey, big thanks to Paige back there producing us tonight, to Rob and Ciali online, to Justin and Dale, Chris and Ben. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
You bet.
More election coverage can be found on our website at newsok.com and in upcoming editions of the Oklahoman. Thanks for tuning in to the Oklahoman's election night 2018 coverage.